Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bevan's Bricks. I thought I would go ahead and have a little bit of just a live chat tonight. I have been busy all day making videos, trying to catch up on things, and I just really have not had a chance to do much of anything else. So, with that being said, we could talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, whether it be 80s, 90s, old TV shows, old video games, whatever is on anybody's mind tonight. Like I said, I thought that would be fun because a lot of times we do have discussions about a lot of different things from the 80s and the 90s. So I thought we would just do a general chat. Let me readjust my camera a little bit, though. Hey, Liam. Hey, Alex. How you doing? What I actually should have done is got some of my old video games out, and we could have done a live stream with video games. But anyway, how you doing, Lego Kid Customs? Hope you're doing well. Like I said, just doing a general quick chat. Brick Sergeant, how are you doing, my friend? Alex says, my new favorite song is Gimme More by Britney Spears. Britney Spears has always made some really good music, so I can see why you definitely like that, Alec. She does make some really awesome songs, and she's been very popular for quite a long time. Still trying to adjust the camera a little bit. Trying to get it a little bit more into perspective anyway. Brian LeBlanc, how you doing, my friend? Liam Arnold says you are doing an amazing job on your videos lately, and thank you so much, Liam. I appreciate that. Edward McAdam, hey, how you doing? Lego Kid says, I am good, and I'm glad to hear that, my friend. I'm just curious, because like I said, this is just going to be a general chat tonight. Does anybody have any specific questions or anything they want to know? Because I always get questions all the time, and a lot of them are repeat questions. So I thought this would be a good way to start trying to address a lot of that, because I know I miss a lot during my normal live streams. Because generally when I'm building, I just can't see everything that's going on. Cynics, hey, how you doing? He says, hey-o. I hope everybody's having a good weekend, as this is Friday night. I will try and do at least one live stream tomorrow. Liam Arnold says, oh, original Nintendo. Oh, my God. Just bought one on eBay. The greatest console I have ever had. I agree with you, Liam. I've been contemplating trying to find one myself. I did have one as a kid, because I didn't have the 2600. The 5200 came out shortly after the 2600. So my video games went in the order of the Atari 5200, and then I went from that to having a Nintendo. And then I went from Nintendo to, it was the Sega Genesis. And then I went from the Sega Genesis, because I think it was called the Sega Genesis, but because it was a cartridge gaming system as well. And then it had the CD, which was the 32-bit system that it was adapted for after that. And that was really cool. And then after that, I started getting into PlayStation. And I went from PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I do have a 5 also. But I even had, because of my kids, my son specifically, he was a big Xbox fan. Me personally, though, I always stuck with PlayStation, and part of the reason is up until just, I think, 2 years ago, you didn't have to pay to play online, where with Xbox being Microsoft, you always had to pay to be able to play your video games online. Where with PlayStation, it was always free up until about 2 years ago, and that was why I stayed with PlayStation, because I used to play a lot of the massive player, the MMORG games, Worlds of Warcraft. My very first game was Ultima Online. I played Star Wars Galaxies and a bunch of other games, so that was kind of, I got tired of paying that monthly fee, I guess is what it is, and that's why I kind of stayed with PlayStation for most of the time. And hey, how you doing, Mike? So glad you could join us. Yes, Alex, Britney Spears is definitely the queen of pop. Varen, hey, how you doing? Brick Sargent says, how is the family doing now? They're doing a lot better, buddy. Thank you so much for asking. Everybody is feeling a lot better. Everybody's finally over everything. Nobody's on lockdown anymore, so that's a good thing. So definitely a big improvement. Brian LeBlanc says the wiring you are doing with the, I'll say, raw materials where you ordered the pre-wired LEDs, what is the max that can be wired onto one bus or USB? That's a really good question, Brian. What I would actually say, because those lights, and I haven't done an actual amp draw to see, I want to say those lights probably pull 1/10 of an amp at most. And looking at that, your typical power supply is going to be 5 amps. So you could probably, we'll say you could do a minimum of about 50 of those LEDs on one USB plug, one USB power supply. Mind you, that is a pure guess. That's just going off the assumption that it's 1/10 of an amp on the draw. I would say it's probably very safe to do about 50 of those lights on one 5 amp USB power supply. Now, trying to go back, for example, to the commission job that I did recently, of which I might be doing another one, it looks like, here very soon. I had a meeting today about that. But anyway, what I was getting back to is the original, the commission job that I did earlier in the year this year. That, at a guess, probably had close to 50 LED lights altogether. Mind you, it was a combination of singles, LED light bars, and a bunch of other stuff. And that was all powered by one 5 amp USB power supply. And I'm sure if you haven't seen it, you can go back through my log. As a matter of fact, if you go under my playlists and look up commission job under my playlists, you will get to see some really good footage of all the builds and everything that was done for that particular build. That was for the Axis Communications Company. And like I said, again, I want to say it was close to 50 LEDs just on that. But like I said, that entire table was powered with one power supply. And I did post the link, and I can post it again, actually. I might even do it after this live stream. I did post a link for the power supply that I did use for that commission job in my community tabs. Right now, I believe it's like 26% off, too. So I might even buy one or two more myself just for some of the stuff I'm going to be doing in my city. But that one power supply would probably power at least half of my city comfortably. I'm going to purchase 2 of them, so that way I have one for each side of the city. And I think that that would be more than enough power for the average person just having one of those power supplies, because most people do not have a 300 plus square foot Lego display. They generally have around, we'll say 50 to 100 square feet or so. So that one power supply would be more than enough for the average person. Trying to go back and catch up on a few more of the other comments. Brick Sargent says, I started out games with Pong. I actually, you know what? I remember Pong as well. So I totally forgot about that, Brick Sargent. But so yes, technically you're right. Now, mind you, that was a game system my parents already had, and I started playing it. I can remember playing it back in the 70s. And me and my brother used to play it so much, is why my mom and dad bought us the Atari 5200. But I totally remember Pong as well. Absolutely. Aaron, hey, how you doing? Cynics says, let's agree, the Nintendo 64. Oh, I love all the old vintage arcade games. So yes, the Nintendo 64 was a really cool system as well. Aaron DeLello says, I have the PS5 and I have always loved PlayStation. And again, I am with you, because that's what I personally always played on most of my years when I was console gaming anyway, when I wasn't playing computer games. I did have a very long stint, though, with computer games for a long time. Part of the reason I got out of doing a lot of the online gaming with my computer and such, too, it was just quite simply... because even like a PlayStation, the Xbox, any of them, every 2 to 3 years they come out with a new system, and you got to buy a new system to keep up and be able to play the games. Not that big of a deal when you compare it to a computer. And here's what I mean by that. When I was doing all my online multi-world gaming, it seemed like I was spending hundreds, if not thousands, a year just keeping my computer up to date enough to be able to handle all the graphics and everything that a lot of these games were doing. And back when I was heavy into online gaming, they RAM and everything was very expensive. It wasn't as cheap as it is today. Not that it's cheap today either, don't get me wrong, but it is a lot cheaper than it was back when I used to do a lot of the online gaming. Horrorzoid, hey, how you doing? Sean Bauer, hello, my friend. WKRP in Cincinnati. I loved that show. That was a very good show. Varen says, Bevan's Bricks, do you have any hobbies besides Lego? And if so, what are these hobbies? I have a ton of hobbies. If you've been a longtime viewer of my channel, you know that I have two different channels. I'm an electrician by trade, but I also used to heavily play in automotive. I do carpentry. I also used to play in bands. So as a musician, I play a little guitar. Predominantly when I was in bands, I played bass, and I did play in bands for quite a few years. I played a lot of very large venues too. Mind you, I'm talking back in the 90s, back when I was a teenager when I did all that stuff. But I have a very broad spectrum of hobbies. Generally, anything that involves me working with my hands, I have probably done something with it at some point in time, whether it's wrenching on a car, building something from scratch, doing a lot of fabrication, because I do like to do fabrications. Predominantly growing up, it was always for automotive purposes, but I've actually made, I have that Stormtrooper that's out here. Part of that Stormtrooper costume was actually assembled and made by me. I made my own vacuum form machine, made my own plugs, and actually was pulling the plugs and making different parts. I have half of a Star Wars Snowtrooper costume that I started making. I still have all the plugs for it. I need to reassemble my machine, though, because I got sidetracked with life. But I will get back to that hobby again at another latent point in time. But I also used to do a lot of RC cars. I love RC cars. I still have about 7 of the RC cars that I've owned throughout the years. Trying to go back to some of the other comments. Brian says, that's good to know. I bought the same power supply. What about the individual USB port load? That's a really good question, Brian. I'm not honestly sure. I personally would think that overall you're probably good for at least 1 amp per plug. But I can't give you a specific information on that. I'm trying to look at this USB that I have in front of me. And actually, I think it says it on it, even on that one that you might have just bought, Brian. I think it might say it on the individual plugs. Okay, according to this, this one that I'm holding in my hand, that's not the one that you purchased. According to this particular is a 5 amp. I'm sorry, this is only a 3 amp, excuse me, power supply. And with this being a 3 amp power supply, this is good for a half a amp per port. So, but there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ports on this guy. So, at a guess, I'm going to say you're probably good up to maybe an amp and a half with the port that you bought, because that power supply that you have, I'm trying to remember the wattage. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I would say it's probably a lot higher than this one, because the wattage on this one I'm holding in my hand, and this was a very cheap power supply. This doesn't even say the wattage. I want to say this is probably around 20 to 30 watts, and the power supply, going off my memory, and my memory's not always the best in the world, the power supply that you bought, I want to say, is closer to 60 to 70 watts, so it's going to be double the size of that one, and that's why I'm saying it's going to be at least an amp per port. I would have to try and find the power supply booklet and look up the information on it, but when I finally, because I am going to be ordering one myself, when I finally do get that in, I can actually give you a very informative answer for that particular question. Mike, yes. Pong, beep, beep, beep. Well, it's like even on the Atari 5200, they had something like Pong. They had Super Breakout. So that was basically, it was a modified version of Pong. And I think most people here could probably say that they definitely remember Super Breakout, because that was a very, very cool game. And I am doing great. Thanks for asking. And how are you doing, John? Hello, hello. Scott's Blocks, happy Friday to you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Sean Bauer says, how old were you when the Nintendo 64 is a classic? How old are we, I should say, that the Nintendo 64 is a classic? I'm trying to remember when the Nintendo 64 came out. I want to say the Nintendo 64 came out in the mid-90s. So for me, I was already in my 20s when that came out. So it's definitely a classic because I am almost 50 now. So yeah, a lot of us are pretty old because I know like Alec, for example, I can guarantee you he probably has never even heard of a Nintendo 64. The oldest system that Alex, I'm going to assume anyway, would probably be, he's probably heard of the Wii. And that's probably what a lot of the younger people have seen is like stuff like the Wii or the PlayStation 3 or something. And hey, how are you, Kip? I hope you're having a great evening, my friend. Ned B, how are you doing, my friend? Christopher Gerber says, do your convention center builds people build need to be on a 4x6 plate? All convention center builds have to be built on a 4x6 base plate. I prefer people to use the little telescope piece for the legs. That way it keeps them all the same height. But if you don't want to use the little telescope piece for the legs, you can use 5 plates, 5 round plates, a brick and 2 plates. But that way it keeps them all at the same height. And I also do want to point out that I like the builds to stay on the size of the table. And I do not have, let's see, I will grab one real fast. Just because I want people to know. I shouldn't say I prefer. I require your build to fit on a 4x6 plate. And I want it to stay in the confines of the 4x6 plate. I've actually had a few builds. One of the ones that are the videos that I posted today where it actually exceeds the size of the 4x6 plate. It wasn't as bad as as it could have been because it actually came out the front. Because what it is, the reason that I say 4x6 is because I have to put all the builds right up against each other. And with that, I can't have you sticking out and interfering with the next build because then I can't put a table against your table. If I receive any more builds that are beyond the confines of the 4x6 plate, I'm going to start modifying them. And I've actually received, I think it's 2 so far that are beyond those confines of the space. And as the convention center gets more and more full, I'm probably going to have to modify their builds just to make sure it fits. But the reason that the restriction to the size is so that way I can get a bunch of builds all inside of there. And I don't want it to come out this way because I need to have little rows that I can put minifigs in between the builds as well. And that's why I say it's got to stay on the 4x6 plate. And then again, I prefer people to just go ahead and use the telescope piece for the legs. You don't have to, but if you don't use the telescope piece, like I said, use a brick and 2 plates or 5 plates, and that'll get you to the height. That way everybody's table display is at the same height too, because I don't really want to see a bunch of table displays that are all like this throughout the convention center, because then it wouldn't be as decorative and it wouldn't look as neat. Because to me, having all the tables at that same height, it makes it look more natural and more real, like an actual display, because everybody would have the same tables that they'd be displaying their stuff on. And that's why I try to keep everybody in those confines. Destro says he got the Nintendo 64 in 1999. Like I said, that was a very cool system. I want to say, though, in 99, I'm trying to think. I want to say that I guess I didn't. Because I was still heavy into cars at that point. Because I used to drag race and whatnot, too. And so I'm going to say it was probably from around 92 to around 2002 maybe. I really didn't mess with any of the video game systems at all. It was around 2002, I think, is when I finally started playing. Because I was mainly, if I wasn't drag racing, I was playing with my online gaming. But I want to say it was around 2002 is when I started getting back into the gaming systems because I was tired of trying to keep my computer system up to snuff, so to speak, and I started doing the gaming consoles. So 2002 was when I started getting back into it, and I thought that was when the PlayStation 1 was out, and it was like hugely popular. Sega Dreamcast, wasn't that the add-on to the Sega Genesis? I could be wrong on that, Mike, but I do remember the Dreamcast. I don't remember if I had that, though, because I went from the Sega Genesis to it was like a CD player. You clicked it, if I remember correctly, you clicked your Sega Genesis onto the CD player, and then I don't remember what it was called. That might have been Dreamcast, though. Cynic says GameCube. That GameCube was pretty cool, too. Liam says, I'm going to have to go to GameStop tomorrow. He's obviously going to be looking at some old games. Alex says, but yes, I've definitely heard of the Wii. And I said, Wii, I think, is only about 10 years old, but that was a very fun system, too. Varen says, at Bevins, just a suggestion, you should do the night chats every 1 to 2 weeks. It's really a good idea to settle down and just talk. And I'm probably going to do, actually, Varen, just these chats more frequently than even that. And part of the reason is, number one, is a lot of people do want to be able to talk to me, and they want to be able to ask questions and have interaction. And to me, it's actually more enjoyable to just sit and talk to people than it is to try and build. Quite frankly, what it is it's talking to people while I'm trying to build something is a huge distraction. It's very frustrating, and it's very hard for me to build and accomplish anything when I'm trying to focus on a build and I'm talking to people. So anymore, I think what I'm finally going to make a decision on is if I'm going to be building anything during a live stream anymore, it's just going to be a set. I don't think I'm going to do any more of my custom mocks during live streams just because it's quite annoying. And there's a lot of times, it seems more and more here lately, I've been getting a lot of annoying people in the streams. And I'm already sometimes frustrated trying to do builds while I'm live streaming. And when somebody gets on and acts like an idiot, it tends to frustrate me even more. So I personally prefer having chats like this and live streams like this just because it is a more enjoyable experience. I like to think for you guys, but for me as well. Hey, how you doing, Legend Builds? So glad to see you. Ned B says doing well and looking forward to the noon tomorrow into the week time. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I totally relate, my friend. That's why I took this week off. I just needed a break for a while. Destro319 said played World Wrestling Federation, No Mercy on the 64 for 13 years. That was a very cool game. I do remember that. It's funny because a lot of people, when they think of wrestling, they think of the WWE. And before it was WWE, it was WWF, which is very cool. Legends Build, hey, how you doing? Thank you so much, Xavier Sorrent. He says, I love the Avengers Tower. And again, thank you so much for that. Tyler Carter says, I was trying to order a studio build earlier, and I noticed that shipping is almost the price of the actual parts. Do you think a Bricklink Prime would be nice? Maybe $100 a year for the free shipping? I honestly don't. And hey, how you doing, Dave West? So glad to see you. Tyler, I honestly know nothing about Bricklink Prime. I wasn't aware that there was even such a thing, if there is such a thing. So I really couldn't tell you. A lot of the stuff that I do, I'm just buying huge bulk orders. I don't typically try to buy parts and to set the. I generally am not going on Bricklink to try and find parts to build a specific set. Basically, if I don't have it, I'm not buying it, or if I am going to try and get it, I try to get it new in the box, but I try to buy everything right when it comes out, so I've never really missed anything. There's a couple sets that I have on my desperately wanted list that I might end up pulling the plug and biting the bullet and paying the big premium on it at some point. One of those sets, I can give you an example for me, because I wasn't doing cities at the time that they came out, was a lot of the 9-volt track stuff. I missed out on a lot of that. And the big peeve for me that I would really like to get is the old Santa Fe train. But I personally wouldn't try and part it out. I'm weird that way. I want it new in the box, and I know I'm going to have to pay a premium if I ever wanted to get it. So I'm probably just never going to own it. Brick Sargent says Nintendo came out in 1996. Now, when you say Nintendo, are you talking about Nintendo 64, Brick Sargent? Because it was before 96 when I had the original Nintendo game console. The old, the big square, the one that they made. I thought it was like 86 when the original Nintendo came out anyway. And Sean Bauer says Sega CD, so that wasn't the Dreamcast. He said Dreamcast was its own system. Okay, so I never had Dreamcast then. Alex says Bevan's Bricks, my convention center mock has the telescope, but it's on. You can't. If you built it on a 6x6, Alex, I can't use it. It'll be modified. There's no way about it. I will rip it apart and have to figure something out with it if you already sent it. But that's why I tell everybody it has to be on a 4x6, buddy. I apologize for that if you misunderstood that, but 4x6 is the only thing I accept builds on. I drag raced VW Beetles, believe it or not. My VW was a 1959 Volkswagen Beetle that I had customized. I had Porsche 911 brakes, braking assembly on it, because at that point in time they didn't have all the custom stuff that they have nowadays. And I wanted to have disc brakes for more stopping power, because I used a Corvair Flat 6 140, and I had it ported, polished, built. I was pushing about 260 horsepower in my little VW Beetle that only weighed about 1,200 pounds because it was stripped down to bare bones. And I used to run pretty much anywhere from a flat 13 to a flat 13.2 in my VW Beetle. It was a lot of fun to race because it used to upset a lot of people back in the day. Because here they would have like the old, back when I was a kid, the big thing to have, everybody had the old Mustang Fox body with the 302, or the 5-liter, I should say. And I could eat a 5.0 up, and that used to upset a lot of people. Mike Lamolino says, yep, but no, Dreamcast was another system altogether. Like I said, I didn't have that one then. I thought it was ColecoVision. There you go. Now, Ned, I loved ColecoVision, and you might know the game I'm talking about because a good friend of mine growing up, that was what he had. I had the Atari, and he had ColecoVision. And with ColecoVision, there was a game, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. Utopia, I think. But it was a game. It was like 2 continents, and you would send storms and stuff to each other. The point was is you had to get your population to a certain height without the other person destroying it. It was kind of like, I guess, a modern version of that game would be like Populous. And with that being said, I want to say it's kind of like Populous, but obviously it wasn't as graphically evolved at the time. But me and my buddy used to play that all the time on ColecoVision. There was a lot of other really cool games too, though, like the Paperboy delivery game, and I can't remember them all, but the thing that I thought was neat about the ColecoVision, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, because it might have been Intellivision that I'm thinking of in my head, but it had the long controller with the 9 buttons, if I remember correctly, and then your pad was a round disc that you just kind of ran your finger over to get your directions on. But that was a very cool system as well. And hey, X2 Gamer, how are you, my friend? Crusader 1991, how are you doing? Yes, your video went up today, and thank you so much. That build was awesome, and it came all the way from Australia. I think that was absolutely amazing. And again, thank you so much for participating in the convention center, my friend. I never saw any links for you, by the way. If you have any links, please make sure you tell me or email them to me so I can include them on your video. Xavier Soren says, are you going to make any more custom planes for your airport? The planes, every plane that I have at my airport is an official Lego set. Some of them are as old, trying to think. I think my cargo planes are roughly 8 years old. They might be 10 years old, but everything is an official Lego set. I do not have any custom planes at all. And part of the reason that I did that was because the official Lego planes, and say hello to my little friend, the official Lego planes are smaller sized, and with them being smaller sized, it was easier to build an airport to go around the official Lego airplanes as opposed to building custom planes. Because if I was going to build a custom plane, I'll give you an example. Lego Big Planes is a channel, and that kid makes some amazing planes. As a matter of fact, one of his builds, it was actually just hit the 10,000 mark for the recent Lego Ideas group of builds. But anyway, his planes are amazing, and that would be the kind of planes that I personally would love to build. But the size of those planes, to try and build an airport to necessitate those, I would have to use my entire barn. So that's why I always stuck with the official Lego set planes. And yes, Scott's Blocks, I agree with you. The Santa Fe is one of my unicorns. And again, it's just because it upsets me CN Rail fans ask, what's my favorite restaurant? As far as locally, my favorite restaurant is either JR's or Saucerio's, which I just went there and ate tonight. But anyway, Brick Elder says, what are you buying the bulk orders? Where am I buying the bulk orders? I buy them on BrickLink, just like everybody else. Scott's Black says, the Santa Fe, one of my unicorns. Brick Sergeant 64, or Nintendo 64. Sean Bauer said, okay, that was for 96. Okay, that makes more sense. Because like I said, I thought the original Nintendo was like 86. There was another comment I was trying to... X2 Gamer, do I reply to my Instagram when I try and get a chance to? It's hard for me to reply to everybody. The best way, if you want to get a response from me, join my membership. There's a link at the top of the chat room, and I get in my membership Discord group and talk with everybody daily. At least I try to get in there daily. That's the best way to get a hold of me, though. And you are more than welcome. Crusader 1991. There was another comment I was trying to catch up and read, and I can't remember where it is now because the comments have been flying by so much. And yes, Alex, it has to be on a 4x6 plate. So good. I'm glad to hear you didn't send it yet. Sean Bauer said, I parted out the brick bank. Not sure if it was worth the trouble and shipping costs. And that, my friend Sean, is why I personally won't part out a set, because I don't know any one builder that probably has every part for any one of the modular buildings. And with that being said, you're going to probably have to link out your builds, for example, through a multitude of people, and the shipping costs alone are going to kill you. And that's part of the reason why once a set is discontinued, they end up skyrocketing in price. Because even if you try to part them out, you're going to be spending $300 to $400 on average for most of the buildings. And I know a lot of people think that the $300 or $400 price point is probably high for an aftermarket set, but considering it's not made anymore, to me that's actually pretty fair. As far as sets that I would try and part out, and I'm going to tell you why I would part them out, would be, for example, the Cafe Corner or the Green Grocer. And the thing is the Green Grocer, I would not build in sand green. I would do a color change on that particular building. And the Cafe Corner, I would use a bunch of different parts, like I showed in one of my videos on how to build a cheap Cafe Corner. Because what it is there is a lot of modern parts that would replace the original parts of that building, and it still looks just like the original building. And that is the problem with the Cafe Corner, is it was built with a lot of parts that are no longer made. And that's why that particular set, if you want it to look original, is very expensive, because none of the parts are made anymore. Xavier says, how did you fit that in a Beetle? Well, it was a lot of engineering, actually, Xavier, to try and go off mechanical stuff, and I'm not going to try and elaborate too much because I know not everybody's mechanics here. The first thing I had to do, because when you're putting in, because when it came with the Corvair motors, a Corvair rotates clockwise, and a VW Beetle rotates counterclockwise. So the first thing I had to do is Clark's Corvair Services sells an adapter plate. And I bought the adapter plate from them to be able to bolt that up to a VW transmission. But the reason I'm bringing up the rotation of the motor is with the Corvair motor, I had to reverse the rotation of the motor, or I had to reverse the ring and pinion in the transmission. And the problem with reversing the ring and pinion in the transmission is your transmission would overheat. And I know a lot of people that have done things that way for sandrails and such, and I didn't want to go that route. So what I ended up doing is I reversed the rotation of the motor. To do that, you have to buy a special cam. And Clark's Corvair Services also makes that cam. It was an OT60 cam. And with doing that, I was able to reverse the rotation of the motor. And then basically I had to cut a bunch of extra metal out of the rear of the car to get the engine in there. And then I made my own custom, because I am a fabricator as well, and I made my own custom deck lid and put a Porsche 911 whale tail on the top of that deck lid, because with the increased size of the motor, I needed more airflow, and I wanted the 911 whale tail because that grabbed more air as I was driving along, and it helped keep the engine cool. But that was basically it in a nutshell, and I have totally missed a bunch of comments, so I am sorry. Chip Off the Old Block Toys says, good evening from Utah, and hey, how are you? Hello to Utah, my friend. Whiskey Shred says, the old Donkey Kong orange handheld with 2 screens. I loved Donkey Kong. That was a cool game. Utopia. Yeah, okay, so Colin knows what I'm talking about. Colin Hines, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. But like I said, I absolutely loved Utopia. Crusader 1991 says he doesn't have any links or social media, but to answer my question, 1991 is the year he was born, okay? And he says, thanks for the opportunity to participate. And you are more than welcome, Crusader, and thank you for making me feel old. Because I figured it was probably the year you were born, but I thought, I had to ask because, like I said, that was the year I actually graduated high school, was 91. Colin Hines says, and yes, the controller was, okay, that's what I thought it was in television, but like I said, I wasn't sure, because ColecoVision, I thought they had kind of a big round knob at the bottom that you had to play with, but like I said, it's been so long since I've played any of those systems, I'm really not sure. Mike is talking to a chip off the old block. Alex is saying, I think the best old game is Pac-Man. Pac-Man is a very old game. I agree with you on that, Alec. Varen talking to Alex. Scott Splocks talking to Alec. I'm trying to skip through. Brick Sargent says, join the team on Bevan's Bricks Funny Farm. Absolutely. That was something I was going to say because somebody was asking about as far as responding to emails and things like that, because I get tons and tons of emails. I get tons and tons of Instagrams and everything else, and it's not to be mean. It's not to be rude. I can't even keep up with the comments to most of my videos anymore. Generally, like right now, I'm actually way behind on my comments on my videos, but it'll probably take me a good hour to 2 hours to respond to all the comments right now that are just on my YouTube videos. And that takes time. And that's why I'm not as responsive as I would like to be, or I used to be anymore with my Instagram and all that. It's so hard for me to keep up. And that's why I tell people, if you're wanting to talk to me on a more personal level, the best thing you can do is like what Brick Sargent said, is join the Funny Farm, because even with the Funny Farm, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I can't be on there all day. I do try to get on there and comment as much as I can. And I am more responsive with Discord than I am with any other thing that I have going out there. So again, that is the best way to communicate with me, is to join my membership and become part of the Discord group. And thank you so much for the plug there, Scott's Blocks. Ned B says, gotta go. or wait a minute, GG is so easy to clone. Green Grocer, yes. Ned is actually one of the people that did build the Green Grocer, and he also built it in, correct me if I'm wrong, Ned, didn't you do it in gray, light gray, or I'm trying to remember. Somebody I know did it in dark red. I thought that was Charm City Bricks, but I might be mistaken. But anyway, though, like I said, Ned B, Lego City, is one of the people that I did know that did make the Green Grocer, and he didn't do it in green, and it saves you a ton of money if you avoid using the green. Xavier says, that's epic. I love modifying cars, too. I really haven't done a lot of cars myself, and I would like to really get into doing that more and more. But again, I don't have a lot of experience with cars, because that is a question I get asked a lot myself. But the few cars that I have done, I totally agree with you, my friend. They are a lot of fun to do. They're actually kind of trying, because you're trying to keep a build into the confines of a certain size and space, which makes it a lot of fun. And I'm trying to skim through. I see a lot of people talking to each other, and absolutely age is just a number, because mentally I am 12. I agree with you, Crusader. Liam Arnold says, wow, all of my hobbies, video games for fun, mechanic for work, and Lego, of course, for fun. And I guess I'm an electrician by trade. I manage 2 airports. But mechanic was something I originally wanted to do when I was a kid. My father talked me out of it. My father was a machine repairman, and he was the one that actually talked me out of it and talked me into becoming a tradesman, which is why I became an electrician, and God bless my father for talking me into that. Salvation 73 says, I finished high school in 92. So there you go. So I do have somebody that's close to me. You were just a year behind me then. Bricklock, Illinois says, Pong for the win. Yes. Like I said, Pong was an awesome game. Destro 319 says, I finished in 90. Oh, so you're a year older than me. There we go. My brother was 89. And I would say sometimes he'll log in and talk too. But my brother was 89, and then I was 91. And actually, my wife is 90. So you're the same age as my wife, Destro. Flimsy Bricks, hey, how you doing? Alex says the oldest game he's ever played was Pac-Man. And like I said, it is an awesome game. I am Clark says, wife gave me the Lego Expert Mustang for an early birthday present. Happiest boy today. And I bet you are. Bet you are doing whatever she wants for your honeydew list, too. Mike Lamolino says, I got you all. He graduated in 87. I was going to say, no, I think, when Brick Sargent just said it, Brick Sargent, I think, has us all. Actually, I know Brick Sargent, he said that he's got us all because he graduated in 85. I thought Ned had everybody beat, though. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ned. Didn't you graduate in 83 or something like that? Because I thought you were just a little bit older than Brick Sargent. I know you're both in your 50s, but I thought you had him beat, Ned. Trying to catch up on it, and you are more than welcome, Liam. And Ned B says, did it in sand green, substituted. Oh, that's what it was. So you did do it in sand green. Okay. But you substituted the grooved piece with the masonry brick. Okay. That makes sense. And I can see where that would still be cheap as well. In 82. See right there. I thought Ned had you beat Brick Sargent. I thought 83, but okay, it was 82. So I knew I was close. Kyle Dunbar, hey, how you doing, my friend? Flimsy Brick says, oh, okay. I'm working on the grocery store mock for a video, but any tips? A grocery store mock. As far as tips, I guess the biggest thing would be it depends on the size of the build. I would focus more on the front part. I mean, it's really hard to get tips without somebody actually looking at somebody's build. Because to me, a grocery store, if I was going to build a grocery store, it would probably be on close to 2 32 by 32 base plates. I would make it a wide store and try and keep it somewhat shallow. But then I would probably use 2 32 by 32 plates for parking and stuff like that. It depends on the space you have, though, I guess is the big thing. The biggest tip I would say is for a grocery store, at least most of the grocery stores here where I'm at, most of the facades of the building is glass. And then you'll have the brick around it. You can put a sign up at the top of the building. And then try and make sure you have like 1 or 2 check-in counters, shopping counters. And then have at least 2 to 3 aisles inside the store. And you could probably squeeze all that down to like a 32 by 32 base plate. And it still look really cool. Crusader 1991 says he cloned the Green Grocer in sand green and subbed out the 1x8 bricks for 1x4 bricks. And it worked out cheaper, but still was pricey to do. And yes, I can imagine it was. Music Tips and Tricks says hello from Florida. It's bricking it up. Oh, on his other account. And can you wave when you read? My phone is on mute. And yes, I can wave. And how are you doing? Music Tips and Tricks. Jonathan M says, anyone put Lego in the washing machine? I'm about to do it for the first time, but I need to wash my kid's soccer jersey too. Can I put them both in? The Lego is in a bag. I have never done it that way, Jonathan. What I've always done for washing my Legos, and I know I just said a bad word. I said S on the end of Lego. But and Bryce Bricks says he just graduated in 2015. Nothing like making me feel old. But Jonathan M says, as far as washing your Lego, what I always did is I have a laundry tub in my laundry room. And I always just plugged the tub, put the Lego in the tub, put in some laundry detergent, and just kind of mix it around by hand. I've never personally washed it in a washing machine. I've always just put it in the, like I said, the laundry sink, base, you want to call it. And then after that, what I would do is I would drain it, bring it out, put it in a lettuce spinner, and it'll get the water out of your pieces, and then lay it on a beach towel. And then what I used to do, and currently where I'm at, I have ceiling fans. I just haven't tried to do it here, but my old house, I had ceiling fans all over the place, and what I did was I would lay it on the beach towel, turn on the ceiling fans, and usually within about 30 minutes, the Lego was actually dry. But that's how I washed it. So to give you any type of tips for putting it in the laundry machine, I've never done that. If I was going to do that, I would put it in a bag like you said you're going to do, and I would do it on a gentle cycle. I would not do it on something high. And do not put it in the dryer, because I guarantee you that Lego will probably melt. Cynic says, put the Legos in the jersey. There you go. That's probably not a bad idea. Flimsy Brick says it's on a 48 by 48. That's, to me, that would be the perfect size for a grocery store. Jonathan M. laughing at somebody else's comment. Don't forget talking because Ned B was telling everybody to get off his lawn. And yes, you got to shake your fist, just like Matt said, or Scott's Block said, I should say. Talos Moonbreaker says, is it standalone like an Aldi store, or is it in a dense area? And that does make a difference as well for Flimsy Bricks anyway. He says it's a standalone, so I would try to make sure you keep it on a bigger footprint then. Salvation 73, he's got the Mos Eisley Cantina. That's an awesome set. I love that set. I actually have it built and over on one of my tables over there. Maniac for Bricks, hey, how are you? Bryce Bricks says, I soak my Lego. So you do it, I'm assuming, the same way I do it. You could even do it in if you don't have a laundry basin or a laundry sink, you could actually even do it in a bathtub. Same thing. Just plug the drain, fill it with Lego, put a little laundry detergent in it, let it soak for a good hour, and then take it out. Brick Sergeant says, I have to put Lego in the washer, and it worked out just fine. Like I said, I've never personally done it. I would imagine it's fine, but like I said, I personally, if I was going to do that, I would just do it on a, like I said, gentle cycle, so it's not beating the daylights out of it. Flimsy Brick says, I do a lot of mocks for my, and we don't plug our channels here, Flimsy Bricks, so I'm going to give you a warning on that one right there. Tasman Bricks, hey, how you doing, my friend? Daryl, hope you are well, and I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking, Tasman. How are you, my friend? Bryce Brick says to wash it. Ned B talking to somebody else. Scott talking to somebody else. Destro 319 says, I think an electric toothbrush would work well if you had the time to sit and play with it. Yeah. Janik Poznaski, hey, how you doing? And I am actually caught up, believe it or not. Mike McDonald says, hello all, hope all is well, and I am doing great, and thank you so much for asking, Mike. Jonathan M. said, I like the salad spinner idea, no dryer. I did some of the sink earlier, but I need to do a bulk wash. Hopefully these cheap laundry bags don't rip in the wash. And like I said, I've never washed it, and no problem at all, Flimsy. That's why I was giving you a warning. Like I said, I've never done it, so I can't give any good reference for washing them in the washing machine. Brick Sargent said he does it, though, so he could probably tell you a good brand or something of a bag that you can use. Legend Build says, my Lego Black Panther Talon Fighter and Giant Man just arrived today. And that's awesome. Tasman Brick says, hope you're feeling better, Daryl, and loving your Avengers Tower. And thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yes, I am feeling a lot better, my friend. And hey, how are you doing, Mike McDonald? Steve Short says, good evening, and how are you? Sean Bauer says, a 30-gallon storage bin works well. Oh, for washing? Yeah, actually, I didn't even think of that. That would be another good way to wash it. And then you could actually, because that's part of the problem with doing it like the method that I do it. I actually it's a little round disc, and then it's, what's the word I'm looking for? Has a strainer in the disc, so you can put it over your drain. And what I would do is I'd put my hand, hold that down on the bottom of the sink basin. Because you don't want your Lego obviously to get sucked down the drain. So that's the downside of washing it the way that I wash it, is you can possibly lose some of your smaller parts getting sucked down the drain. But to me, it was used parts, and I just wanted to get it clean. But I would take that strainer that I'm talking about, it was a little round disc strainer, and stick that and hold it into place. And usually that would get kind of stuck with pieces, so you got to kind of take your finger and fiddle the stuff out every now and then. But that, like I said, that was how I always did it anyway. Cynic says, I'd think that soaking the Lego like I do my cosplay wigs in the tub would work best, because then there is no chance of chipping any of them. And like I said, personally, I think it's a good idea. It's the same as a wash basin. So and that's very cool that you do cosplay. I've never really dressed up a lot except just wearing my helmets and stuff I have around here. But I do want to go to a con. I have been to several Comic Cons. At some point, I would love to go to a Comic Con, though, dressed up in a full like Stormtrooper costume or something. I think that would be so much fun. So that's amazing that you cosplay Cynics. Mike Lamolino, hey, how are you, my friend? And thank you so much for the plug on the channel. Brick Sargent says, I used a pillowcase and tied it closed. And that's another really great idea as well, because that way the pillowcase is not going to break. And if you're tying it in a knot, it's only going to get tighter as it's getting whipped around in the washing machine. And Timothy Mabasa, how are you? And actually, not doing much of anything tonight. Like I said, just nothing new, just kind of chatting. I spent all day kicking my butt trying to get a bunch of videos because I'm actually still behind on videos. I was supposed to have done 2 or 3 different Lego hauls, and I'm going to have to just do another giant Lego haul. And I have actually even robbed parts out of the hauls already to use them. But that's some more videos I got to make. And then I was wanting to make some videos on some of the other collectibles that I buy too. So the biggest, newest thing for me is I am trying to pump out a ton of videos, because today alone I made 4 videos that I published. It was 3 of the build videos for Convention Center mocks, and then one of them, and I'm trying to remember what the first video was for the day. I can't even remember now. I did so many videos today. But I did post 4 videos today. Mike McDonald said, I did a Hulk smash on my own building mock tonight. And hey, you know what? We've all done it. We've all been there. I've done it myself. Sometimes you just get so frustrated. It happens. That's all I can say is it happens. Just try not to do it. That's all you can do. Kyle Dunbar says, I am going to do a museum and have a lot of different internal details. It's going to be on 4, 6, 48 by 48 base plates. That, my friend, will be a huge build, and I look forward to seeing that, as you have a lot of different cool things that you're trying to do. Timothy Mabas says, I'm not sure how you'll pull off the on and off ramps. Not sure how. You must be talking about my highway. Here in Michigan, all your ramps do is they just come right out and they just kind of slope down to the road. And then you simply you pull up to a stop sign or a traffic light, and then you turn out into traffic. And that's how I'm going to be doing mine. I'm not doing clover leafs or anything, because that just takes up entirely too much space. I'm just going to have 2 on ramps and 2 off ramps, 2 on one side and 2 on the other. That will kind of limit the amount of space that's going to take up for my table. And it's just really a matter of what I always refer to it as anyway is brick bending. When you put enough 1x2 bricks together and you have a long amount of them, you can actually take it and start folding it and making it wiggly. And that quite simply is how I'm going to be making the ramps. And yes, it would be. You're absolutely right, Brian. That would be an awesome build of Kyle if he does that. Mike Lamolino says, I bought 7 of the new CMF Looney Tune figures and got 4 different ones and 3 Elmer Fuds. I didn't even know those were in storage yet. Are those actually in storage, Mike? I didn't think they were coming out for another week. At least I haven't seen any here locally by me anyway. Mike McDonald says the Lego math in all LOL. Yes, the Lego math is messed up. The Kerminator says, hi, Daryl. Hi, Daryl is Kermit. No, Daryl's not Kermit. But how are you doing, the Kerminator? Yes, that's, like I said, that's exactly how I intend on doing my Freeway, is just 2 simple on-off ramps. Sean Bauer says, did you happen to check out the Freeway art we have in Phoenix? And no, I have not. I know there is a lot of really cool Freeway art, though, in a lot of different places. And I will definitely have to look into that at some point in time. Sean Bauer says, did you have... Oh, I already read that comment, and I am caught up. Xavier says they're supposed to be out on the 26th, but some stores... Okay. Didn't care about the embargo dates. And that, you know, that makes sense. But like I said, I didn't think they were out yet, but... I know like Target, they're like really, really known for putting stuff out early like that. So for a lot of people, but it's funny though, because I've heard mixed stories. I've heard some Targets will let people buy the stuff even though they're not supposed to be able to buy it ahead of time, and they put it out anyway. And then I've also heard some people say that they go to Target and sometimes they'll have stuff out a week ahead of time and they let them buy it. So, like I said, I've heard mixed things about it, and hopefully people don't have a hard time when they do go. But I've heard some horror stories of people thinking they found gold and then they took it to the register and they were told they couldn't buy it. As far as Lego goes, anyway. Mike Lamolinos has got mine at the checkout at right there, like I was just saying, Target. Because Target is usually the place that does it. and I don't know why or how they are able to get away with that, but they are. And they are usually the worst offenders. People are idiots. You know that? They really are. The Kerminator, I don't really want to see that kind of stuff on my channel. I really don't. And you can go somewhere else or I'll just ban you. I really don't care. Mike Lamolinos, or Scott's talking to Mike Lamolino. Anyway, I've actually been on here for an hour. So with that being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream here because the idiots are coming out of the closet, it seems. So we haven't had any donations tonight, so no need to roll that beautiful bean footage. And I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. And as